talking about today is actually very valuable in the sense that what we want to talk about is kind of experimenting with these concepts. So we need to test and see if what we believe to be true actually is true. So, for example, trainers often write for strength production for people to do sets of 1 to 5 reps. They would usually call most kind of heavy-ish basic bodybuilding movements to be 6 to 12 reps. Light muscle damage, like light shaping, is 12 to 20 reps, and then endurance is usually over 20 reps. But are those ranges actually true? So an example of them being wrong is kind of that 1 rep max effect. We said if you do a 1 rep max, that doesn't actually build new strength, it builds your ability to show your current strength. And that can be challenging for people to understand because if they're new to 1 rep maxes, they will be able to increase the weight that they're able to use. So it'll look like they're getting stronger. So as they're testing 1 rep maxes after like a period of time off, and all of a sudden they can lift 5 pounds heavier, they're going to go, oh man, I got stronger. No. You most likely just learned how to better display your strength and were able to then be more efficient to use 5 pounds more. But you didn't actually get 5 pounds stronger. So what ends up happening is a person will get some effects initially. So maybe they get some training effects the first month or the first 2 months. But then everything plateaus, and 6 to 9 to 12 months later, they're kind of at the same damn numbers. And the reason why is because they're not building new strength in those first months. They were just improving their ability to show their current strength, but nothing was being done to build new strength. So if you lift too heavy too often with all of your exercises, you will actually hold yourself back because you're no longer addressing the things that are going to move you forward. You're more so just making the body do forced heavy loaded work and seeing if it can become more efficient to it. But you're not actually addressing individual weaknesses that can help that improve the overall system. So another concept we have that's not always correct is the rep range of 8 to 12 reps is bodybuilding. No, it's not. Not all the time. So we talk about in podcast 220, titled Muscle Intention versus Movement Intention, that for something to be bodybuilding, okay, you have to actually be focused on the muscles and what the muscles are doing and staying under control, staying very purposeful with your contractions and eccentrics, really making the muscles the main focus of the exercise. Versus what's contrasted in that podcast number 220 is movement intention, where instead of the muscles being the focus, the movement is the focus. And the goal would just be making the movement very efficient, very crisp. You don't really care what muscles do and what when. You just want it to be a very fast, efficient system. So I might look for the smoothness of my squat mechanics if I'm doing movement intention. Where if I'm doing muscle intention, I may be squatting to specifically target my quadriceps. So you're going to move very differently in your exercises. Whether that exercise has the intention of addressing muscles or whether it has the intention of addressing the movement. So it's important for us to know that because if somebody's focusing on moving efficiently, they might be able to do 10 reps in like 10 seconds. Whereas if somebody's moving with a focus on their muscles and trying to make the muscles constantly active, constantly under tension, trying to actually damage and challenge the muscles, 10 reps can actually take up to 30 seconds for most exercises, if not even a little bit longer. So you might give 10 reps to a client thinking they're doing bodybuilding. But if they're just plowing through the exercise just to get it done, they're going to be done in 10 freaking seconds. It's not going to be heavy enough, and it's not going to be a long enough duration for them to actually produce muscle mass. Okay? For them to produce enough muscle damage, which would then be fed to produce muscle mass. So often, not only in our programming do we have to select the right rep ranges, we have to make sure that the person's lifting with the right intention. Okay? So that's something you can do is you can actually send, as a trainer, send your clients podcast number 220, titled Muscle Intention versus Movement Intention, and tell them what exercises are supposed to have what focus. So if they're doing a movement, say deadlifts for strength, you want them to have movement intention. Tell them to move it efficiently in the most even pattern for their body type. No individual muscle should really hurt that badly. You should just feel it as a whole system. But what if they're doing, say, eggshell deadlifts, okay, which is a slowed, constant time under tension style deadlift, where you work on positioning and you want to work on thigh and glute muscular stress to make sure they have the tension of the position in their thighs and glutes. That is muscle intention, because you're focusing on muscles. What are my thighs doing? What are my glutes doing? So you're focusing on individual muscles, therefore it's a muscle intention. It's important if somebody's doing eggshell deadlifts to build the awareness of the muscles and to build muscular strength, that they stay controlled throughout the motion and keep their muscles as the focus. Whereas if they're doing deadlifts to just become more efficient and strong, then they want to have movement intention. So again, 8 to 12 reps or doing 10 reps of something, as an example, is not automatically bodybuilding. How you do those 10 reps determines whether it builds your body or not. So as trainers, we need to be aware of the quality of our clients' movements in order to ensure that the intention of what we want to get from their movements actually happens. So in the consultation with the one trainer, I was discussing how out of my clients, I know which ones move fast, I know which ones move slow. So if I have somebody who's very methodic, I might give them a lower rep range because I know that lower reps are still going to take a significant amount of time or attention. Whereas if I have somebody who's very explosive, I tend to give them more reps for something because I might need more reps to create the time and attention that I need. So if I want them to do something and have it last 10 seconds, I might give one client sets of, like, say, 3 to 5 reps, knowing that they move methodically and slowly, and it'll probably take them around 10 seconds. Whereas if I have a client who moves explosively and aggressively, I might give them a rep range of 6 to 8 reps in order to get to 10 seconds out of them. So there actually are differences in the rep ranges that I write for my clients based on their individual performance methods and styles. So I don't use just all times for all people, rep range blank to blank equals this result. You have to know that there's some leeway within these ranges and that the ranges are representative of time under tensions. And you need to adjust the rep range to get the correct time under tension that you want, not just go with a standard constant rep range. Okay? So, what I would like you guys to do, and just kind of think of this, is when you think of concepts that you use all the time. So if you write for clients, I want you to do 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps. Is that really going to do what you think it'll do? How long does it take that client to do 10 to 12 reps? Can they do 10 to 12 reps with actually any decent heavy weight? So maybe you want them to do 10 to 12 reps to damage muscle, but they're so damn weak at the movement they're doing it, they're not really using anything heavy enough to damage muscle. So if you have somebody who does overhead press, and you want them to build prettier shoulders, okay, and you have them do 10 to 12 reps, but the best overhead press they can do is like 12-pound dumbbells. That ain't going to do it, okay? 12-pound dumbbells are not heavy enough to cause muscular stress in an overhead press style position. So instead, you might only want to give them sets of like 6 to 8 reps. And maybe that can get them to move up another step or 2 in their dumbbells. Then that step or 2 of extra tension on the muscle can actually create the muscle damage you want. So we have a podcast we've talked about before, how your strength levels should affect your training styles, okay, and your training behaviors and numbers. So how your strength affects how you should train, that's podcast 383. So we want to be aware of things like that, okay, that different clients respond differently to all the same stimulus. So if I give everyone bicep curls, I tell everyone to do them for 10 reps, I'm not going to get the exact same result out of every client. We need to be aware of that. So we need to consider the strength level of our clients. We need to consider the speed in which they move. What is the ability for them individually to recover from a certain amount of volume? So if they can't do a lot of work, then you have to make sure that the work you do is heavy, crisp, high quality. If somebody has a high motor and they can do a lot of work, then maybe you're going to rely on that, the higher volume, to be the workload for you. So you can give them a little bit lighter weights, maybe give them easier movements on the joints. So if somebody has a high degree of workload, you can actually do joint-friendlier style training and get great results. If somebody has a really low workload, okay, and you do like kind of high volume stuff, they're either going to do a really piss poor job at it and everything has to be light, or they're going to have aches and pains in their joints. So there's a lot to consider. I don't mean this to be overwhelming, but I do want this to start raising some questions, raising some concepts, and making you start to think of what you're doing and get out of the habit of mindlessly writing things. You need to experiment. You need to test. You need to find out if what you believe to be true is true. Okay? You need to have proof to what you believe in the fitness world. So, one of the rules I have with the trainers that I work with in regards to who I produce as a personal trainer. So we used to have interns from the university come in. We've had over 20 some interns. I've helped develop quite a few trainers over the years. And one of the rules I have is you have to do the exercise before you give it to your client. So never, ever, ever, ever give a client an exercise you haven't done yourself first. Because you won't know the effects of it. You won't know how it feels. You won't know how to adjust for certain feelings or annoyances. You'll have very, very, very little knowledge on that. So little that I'll question whether it's actually helpful to the client. So, you need to have proof. You need to have hands-on experiences. You need to know if what you're doing is working the way you think it is. Not just believe it, not just read it in an article or watch it in a video, but know it for a fact. Test it, try it yourself. So a lot of my clients, when I write their programming, they're actually about a month or two behind me. So I usually try a bunch of weird, crazy, fun shit. And then if it works well, I start giving it to my clients. So usually they're about a month or two behind some of the cool things that I try myself. But I'm trying it first. I'm learning it first. I'm experimenting it. And then I'm going to grow with them in my knowledge. But I already have an initial knowledge base first. So I've done this through nutritional concepts, and I do it through training concepts all the time. Okay? So if you're a trainer, make sure you actually question what you believe to be true. Make sure you have proof of it actually being true before you tell people that it's true, or before you just believe it to be true and start implementing it in their program. Okay? So go listen to parts 1 and 2 of kind of exercise selection, which is podcast 433 and 437. Go listen to podcast 214 to understand rep ranges and time under tensions. Okay? Podcast 220 is a great reference for clients for muscle intention versus movement intention. And podcast 383 tells you how to modify training based on your client's strength levels. Okay, lots and lots and lots of super helpful information there. Stuff that absolutely will make you a better trainer. And if you're listening to this and you're not a trainer, it'll improve your own training as well. Okay, so you're training yourself, so you're technically a trainer. So go listen to this stuff, great knowledge, and hopefully you can find some uses to start implementing it into your own training. Okay, cool. So if you have any questions or if you need anything, if you're a trainer and you'd like a consultation or some help with certain questions, always feel welcome to reach out to us. Our email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. We're always happy to help, okay? Cool. If you like this podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. Also, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. And you can tell us at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.